So this is a movement that's fundamentally shaped by its religious goal. I want to show you how that works. For some of you, this might be a refresher. If you've heard me speak or you've read about the subject, I think that's a good thing to have, a refresher. If this is new to you, great. So if you've heard anything about the Islamist movement and its history, you will doubtless have heard about this man, Sayyid Qutb, Q-U-T-B. Forgive me if I'm mispronouncing it. He lived from 1906 to 1966, and he died on the noose in an Egyptian prison. He was not the founder of the Egyptian Muslim Brotherhood, but he was their preeminent intellectual leader. And his view, which I'll illustrate in a moment, it captures the essence of what this cause is about. So he was looking around the world, and everywhere he looked, the basic conclusion was life sucks. Well, he didn't quite put it like that, but in his view, the world was going to pot. What's wrong? Well, we Muslims are inferior to the rest of the world. Look at us. We're seized of the truth of Allah's word, and yet look, we're poor, we're destitute, we don't have the power that we once did under Muhammad. All of that is a failing. Now, there's an important assumption here that I want to highlight, which is that the correct state of affairs, the right state of, the just state of affairs, is for Islam to dominate, to be supreme, and for Allah's word to dominate and to be in the minds of all men and on the lips of all of them. So this idea of having supremacy is important. Now, that's the state of the world, so that's the problem. And what's the cause of this? Why is this the case? Well, everywhere you look, he says, there is unbelief. We've fallen from the true path. If you look at the books, if you look at the movies, if you look at radio, music on the radio, if you look at the way people behave and what they wear, everywhere you look, there is unbelief. We are assaulted in all directions by this idea of secular law, but the idea that men can rule men, that society could have, that you could live in a world without obedience to God and godly ways. So we're impious, and that is the source of our weakness. Well, what do you do about that? What's the remedy here? Well, quite obviously, you need to return to the true path, and Islam is the solution. You need to go back and embrace piety. And the fundamental here, and what makes this a political, ideological movement, isn't just you need to have a different way of life individually, it's that society needs to be shaped from top to bottom by a complete imposition of religious Islamic law. And how do you get that? Do you just preach? Well, preaching is important. You definitely need to do that. And the Muslim Brotherhood in its early days and still believes in cultivating a society and a culture of Islam so that it's in the marrow of each person that this is the way the truth leads. But you can't stop with preaching. That's not enough. What about the people who are stubborn? What about the people who can't be reached? What about the people who won't listen to you? And for that, there's a ready solution. We all know what that is, he says. You need to use force. You need to wage a war to do this. And the principal theme, or what he evokes here, the kind of button that he presses, is jihad. We have to wage a war. We have to struggle and strive in the path of God. And by doing this, we each individually gain self-worth. This is an important point, and I'll come back to it again and again, that in doing this, so if you live a debauched secular life, you didn't know it, but you are, every thought you're having is an ungodly thought, And you're going to have all kinds of problems psychologically in your own life. That's what he claimed. And if you want to avoid that, you need to embrace the path of jihad. And that will give you self-worth. That will make you a good person. Because striving for a just world is good. And no sacrifice is too great. This is crucial. You must give of everything you have. So this is what you get. We have a problem. The problem is we don't believe in Allah enough. And it's worse than that you don't believe. It's worse than that. You have to feel ashamed of the fact that you're behaving as if the Quran were never written. It's as if you were given the truth and you scrunched it up and you threw it in the trash. Shame on you. So you have given up on the truth. That has caused you to be miserable and weak and falling from your proper station in the world. And so to correct that, you need to fight. Now, that's the what and the why and the how of the movement. And I stressed just a moment ago that it's important to see that there's a personal dimension to this, which is that in striving for this religious idea of holy war in a society shaped in totality, you gain value individually. What does that society really look like? Well, it means submission. It means you bow to authority. It means tyranny, right? It means every aspect of your life is dictated to you by people who claim to speak in the name of Allah. So it's a totalitarian system in the model that you might recognize under the Soviets. And its scope has to be not just your life, but all human life. Because if Allah's word is true, it's true in all places and all times for all people. There are no exceptions to that. And there can be no exceptions politically, neither in your life, nor in society, nor globally. In logic, you can't limit it. If you limit it, you're suggesting that there are areas in life in which faith has no role. And that's blasphemy. I mean, talk about turning your back on Islam. And so there's this world community of Muslims. They have to see themselves as a brotherhood, all aligned in the name of realizing Allah's dream. World ruled by that doctrine. So this is a movement that believes in controlling people, denying freedom, denying thought, denying the idea of a society where you get to live and prosper. There's no place for that.